Welcome to another edition of Vivis Vita, Living Life. Today's topic is about silent compromise. For many, the word compromise is anathema, a dirty word. But is it? Many consider it a concept that should never be allowed into their lives. They feel it is an affront to their standing to even consider the possibility. That is probably born more out of insecurity or pride than anything else. Some have a tendency to get over-defensive, thinking that to compromise on anything undermines them in some way. But does it? Compromise is about deciding what is for the best for all involved. Deciding whether to compromise or not can be tricky. It is true that, as a general rule, we should not compromise on our values, beliefs, principles, boundaries, or self-worth, though there will be times when we may need to shift a little. In general, compromise is by joint agreement, usually after talking about a contentious topic. However, are there not times when care and love lead to a silent compromise? When someone understands the needs, hopes, and desires of the other and wants to fulfill those without argument or unnecessary upset or pain. Some refer to that as a sacrifice. But if it is willingly done out of love and care, is it really a sacrifice? For example, my beloved mama, because of her love for all living things, was a vegetarian, whereas my darling papa was a carnivorous eater who expected there to be meat for every main meal. Mama could have objected and maybe even refused. However, she understood it was just his way and what he had become accustomed to throughout his life. Rather than make a big issue of it or have an argument, she would place a small pile of bones on the side of her plate and occasionally pretend to chew meat from them. Of course, she never did, and I suspect Papa knew this, though I have no evidence to support that theory. Some of you may shout that she was wrong to do this and that it was tantamount to submission, but it was not. Mama simply did not want to make Papa feel uncomfortable. She loved him dearly, as he did her, and this was simply an expression of that love and care. Papa was equally understanding and had his own way of silently compromising, where it did not undermine or negate his firm beliefs. When I was young, I made pets of all our livestock and would not hear of any being harmed. That posed a problem for Papa. Where was the meat for dinner to come from? He could have dismissed my love as childish, something not to be tolerated, and something that was just a phase. But he knew better. My love was genuine, and it definitely was not a passing phase. He said nothing. Instead, he went elsewhere to find the meat for dinner. Did either of those compromises upset or undermine our family harmony? No. If anything, they enhanced it. We each knew the often unspoken love each had for the other. Those were happy days, which sadly were not to be repeated. But that is another tale, not for here. And what about a mother's love? Mothers constantly silently compromise, not their values or beliefs, but their time, energy, and the ambitions, desires, or aims they had before becoming a mother. A mother willingly gives those up for the sake of her child. Her concern is now for the welfare and happiness of her little darling. They become the focal point of her existence, and she open-heartedly embraces all that involves. There is no complaining, arguing, or resentment. No one really knows because she does it silently and willingly. My own experience has also taught me that silently compromising does not undermine who we are, our beliefs, principles, or standing. Both in my work experience and private life, There have often been occasions when someone will express a theory or belief that I do not agree with. On those occasions, I had a choice. Should I indignantly say I considered them wrong or misled, with the consequent discomfort or upset, or should I simply smile and say nothing? There are two aspects to this. First, if the person had brought the topic up as a discussion point, then of course, I would share my opinion, but not in an aggressive manner. We all have our opinions and beliefs, and hope people will respect that. Likewise, we should respect what others hold to be true. One without the other does not work and is often the cause of conflict. Second, would what was being said, proposed, or insisted upon force me actively, rather than silently, to compromise my principles? In the latter case, I would always speak up. The line must be drawn somewhere, and that is where it was for me. Many fear that silently compromising will lead to frustration, a buildup of resentment, possible loss of trust, and ultimately to the breakdown of a relationship. It cannot be denied that this is a possibility, which is why each situation needs to be assessed on its own merits. What I'm here to say is that silent compromise does not necessarily mean we are less of a person because of it. In fact, I believe it makes us more of a person. To care whether love is a component or not is to show understanding, compassion, empathy, and a desire to help make the world, as well as the individual relationship, better and happier. It does not negate who we are or our standing in life. Neither does it undermine our values, principles, boundaries, or beliefs. As mentioned earlier, knowing when or when not to compromise can be tricky, but if we allow compassion, care, and love to guide us, the possibility of our making a mistake is mitigated. I think perhaps the secret to knowing what to do is to first ensure we know ourselves, who we are, what we believe, and, most importantly, where we stand in the world. Getting self-defensive or insisting on having our opinions heard and acted upon helps no one, least of all ourselves, and will more than likely lead to conflict in our lives. I hope I have made clear that it is not always right to compromise or allow ourselves to be the underdog, as I regrettably sometimes did in my earlier life. Those who know my story know what I am talking about. There are times when we have to stand up for ourselves, our principles, and our beliefs. But that is not a consistent and, to reemphasize the point, there are many times when silent compromise results in a happier existence for all concerned, you and the person you may not agree with. Copyright T.R. Robinson, all rights reserved.